Welcome back. Let's talk real quick today about another presbyopia specific topic and a question that comes up there a fair amount of time, which is whether your choice in using reading glasses or reduced minus diopter or progressive lenses or bifocals or whatever you want to call it of a reduction in diopters for close-up is making you more presbyopic than you were before. And now, since we're not on the myopia topic, it's worth mentioning that one, my core competency is myopia. What we have well over a decade and thousands of people, a very strong understanding of the causes and the biology and what specific approaches work. The same is not true for presbyopia. It's just that I get a lot of questions about this, and as much as I try to ignore them, they're persistent, and there's some things that we have some answers for, so I like to cover that. That's number one. Number two, as with myopia, there is no medical advice here. There's no way that I'm aware of to reverse presbyopia as a sign of aging. There's no quote-unquote cures that I'm aware of. The only thing I know about is reducing lens dependence, diopter dependence. While the truth remains that we're getting older, the lens in our eye hardens, close-up focus is more difficult to achieve. How much of that requires lens use is the question that it boils down to, and is the thing that we can limit, I believe, to some extent. And what plays a big role in that is your choice of reading glasses, whether it takes the form of reading glasses if you don't have myopia, or whether that takes the form of a reduced minus correction for close-up if you also have myopia. Important to note here is that in a lot of general circles of optic shops, you're getting a -1 or a +1, +1.5, or +2, somewhere in that range correction. If it goes much above that, there may be other issues. And they generally, it's commonplace, not everywhere in the world, but a lot of places I've seen where the correction, they just kind of go age-based, and it's a real rough estimation compared to myopia, where there's a little bit more specific details in the exam of where your blur horizon starts. So all things to keep in mind. Now, very, very, very generally speaking, I like to say you want to keep the diopter ratio contained, the ratio of how much myopia minus diopters you have and how many presbyopia minus diopters you have. The range between that, say for example, you're -4 myopia and your close-up part of your lenses, whether it's progressives or reading glasses or whatever you use, say you have -4 for distance, you have -3 for close-up. That one diopter ratio is pretty good. The higher the ratio gets, so if you have -4 distance and -2 close-up, has a tendency, at least from what I've seen, to increase your diopter dependence, increase your need for the reading glasses, right? So when you have that lower ratio and you're getting by with those reading glasses because you're challenging your eyes, right? The lens is harder. It can't focus as close as well, but the challenge is continually there. Just as we age, right? You can still be in shape, you can still run, you can still lift weights, you can still do sports, but the less of it you do, the more that age-related degradation happens. So my general response to that is don't increase that ratio too much of minus for distance and lower minus for close-up. One diopter ratio seems to work fairly well, even though I hesitate throwing out numbers like this because individual biology varies widely. Like you have to make your own assessment here of, right? Like if you have a 2 diopter ratio right now, can you reduce it, right? Like if you have a -4 distance and a -2 close-up, can you go to 2.5 close-up, right? Maybe you can. And then how does it affect your close-up vision? And then with that, you have to measure, right? Like your close-up centimeters, how close can you get before there's blur? Keep a log of that. How far can you go before there's blur? And then over the next coming weeks and months, how are both of those numbers or range of numbers affected by your lens choices? A lot of this stuff is very straightforward to determine on your own. You don't need me, you don't need anybody else, because you just say, okay, if I lower the diopter ratio, right? Like if I keep a relatively higher minus for my close-up, how does it affect my presbyopia, right? Like the close centimeter where where the blur starts, right? Does it increase or does it decrease? But that you can tell, is that the right way to go as far as reducing that ratio? And on the flip side, does it increase your myopia symptom? Ideally, it doesn't increase your myopia symptom, your choice, right? And it ideally doesn't increase your presbyopia symptom, or it decreases it. Again, you're not curing anything here, you're not reversing aging, but you can reduce your dependence possibly on some of these diopters that you need for close-up. Anything more than 1 diopter ratio, yeah, it becomes a question mark, right? Like some people need it because, for example, they do have a lot of close-up time and it's worth the trade-off for not negatively affecting their myopia, having more myopia potentially. For some people who don't have that much close-up time, who have a good balance of outer time, of distance vision time, they would be better off using higher minus for close-up, challenging that presbyopia distance and reducing the lens dependence, right? So this is a very long answer to a very short question of, does reading glasses increase my presbyopia? It very well may, but you can look at that yourself. You can understand the plus diopters that are very, very simple, right? Like +1's fine, +1.5 becomes a question, right? When you take them off, you really start to have a hard time reading anything. +2, you're really dependent on those classes when you become accustomed to their use, right? And I think part of the problem is a lot of people are told that age-related somehow means inevitable, which, again, there's not enough data here on my own personal level to make a definitive assessment, unlike myopia, but the anecdotal evidence suggests that your use of plus diopters or reduced minus is directly affecting how much diopter use you actually need as far as your presbyopia is concerned. I'm going to leave it here, otherwise this turns into an endless ramble. Hopefully you find this helpful. Please limit your questions as far as specific diopter questions, because I can't really answer those. A lot of presbyopia questions, I'm weary of falling into that whole myopia is really taking up a lot of time as it is. I'm trying to give you a couple pointers of things I'm aware of, things that you can evaluate on your own, take a closer look at. If you can measure centimeter distances and vary your diopters, not in rapid successions, but over weeks and months, just slowly, like a little bit up, a little bit down, and see how it affects your close-up vision and your distance vision, then you can gauge for yourself what works best for you, right? And if you have medical conditions, don't ignore the advice of your ophthalmologist, of course, and do this with care and be safe with driving and all that other stuff. This is just some face on the internet. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, even though we're mainly continuing to be focused on myopia. And I'll see you in the next one.